Hey guys, my name's Mary Lily.
I'm Marshall.
And I'm Caitlin.
And we're the hosts of Unveiled Opinions.
Three newlywed girlies with a podcast on any and everything wedding related.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, girls.
Happy Monday.
What's up?
Nothing. I studied all day.
For your esthetician test?
It's tomorrow. I think I have to make 100. I think this is one of the ones. It has to be 100.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. So I studied all day.
Speaking of numbers.
Speaking of statistics,
We hit a number last week that we're excited. So we're popping champagne.
whoop, whoop.
Yeah, we hit 100 or 1,000 downloads.
Yay.
Yeah, so that was super exciting. And yeah, we're going to keep
We're growing,
doing this.
guys.
We're growing. Thanks for following.
Thanks for listening.
Give us a share.
Yeah, rate, review too if you guys like what you hear. Or if you like have some like helpful tips.
Send them in.
Yeah. Questions.
We like hearing from y'all.
Yeah, we take feedback well.
We do. Not
Some of
criticism.
us.
So don't do that.
Or do it just, we won't let Marshall see it.
Oh my gosh.
We'll filter it for her.
Thank you. The emotions can't handle right now.
Yeah. Not before the test.
Tensions are high.
Yeah. Not before her
Not
test.
before the test, please.
Well, good. Yeah, we're so excited. We can't believe it's been like,
90. It's almost 90 days. We're
Yeah,
almost at the 90-day
That's
mark.
wild.
it's so fun.
Woohoo!
So we're drinking.
Yeah.
So we're drinking what's
like
new.
every week. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, now
We
we
have a
have
different
like,
reason.
right.
Last week it was your esthetician school.
Yeah.
This
The
week.
one before that was Monday.
It's rough.
It's rough being us.
It's rough in these wedding planning streets.
Yeah, seriously.
But we're done with weddings, our own at least. So
I
now
know.
we can just
Now
gab.
we just have to talk about them and constantly think of ours.
It's perfect. Well, speaking of weddings, so timely.
wild that we're talking about weddings.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to break down one of the big pieces of weddings, which is your main person helping you plan it, your coordinator, your venue coordinator, or your wedding planner. And so we're just going to look at the differences between each of those and just kind of start to give some tips on how to select the perfect person to support your big day.
Yeah.
Let's dig in.
Let's dig in. So we'll just kind of start looking at the three different options. So again, there's a wedding coordinator, a wedding planner, and then the venue coordinator.
Okay, so explain to me the difference between all three, because I don't think I know what a coordinator is versus, because I had like a venue coordinator, but I
Yeah.
also then had a planner. So
Yeah.
what is the third person?
The third person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly didn't really know specifically like, okay, roles and responsibilities, the differences between each, other than like, I feel like venue coordinator and wedding planner, because the venue coordinator, they always say they work for the venue.
Right.
They're there to enforce the rules of the venue
And help.
and help. But like their first priority is like making sure the venue is prepared for your day, supporting the room layout. And then that's kind of like their
Their role.
representative.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
like doing the creative. That's how I like can differentiate. They're not doing the creative part of the role,
Right.
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah. So that's the venue coordinator.
My venue coordinator, though, like also helped us because all of our catering and all of our alcohol and stuff and my cake was all through the club. So like I did work with my venue coordinator, I feel like a little bit more.
I did too because
Yeah.
of the food and alcohol.
Yeah, but you have to do it. Like there's
You have to like the tasting and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We worked with ours as well. And like she was able to help provide insights of what other weddings did
Yeah.
from a layout standpoint. But it wasn't like she was like, oh, we've never done this before, we should do it.
Right.
It was like kind of pulling from her Rolodex of like experiences from other weddings at the venue.
Right. Yeah.
Mine also gave vendors that they've worked with.
That's what
Yeah.
mine did too. And that's
So.
how we chose literally every single vendor.
Which is nice because then you know that they work well together
Yep.
and like know the venue,
Allegedly.
allegedly.
So they say.
And then going to the wedding coordinator. And so this is somebody who's logistically focused. They work for you, but they're typically helping you on a shorter timeline than the planner. And so sometimes that like contract will be 3 weeks or 3 months before the wedding or like 2 months, whatever it is. But it's typically a set period and it's once the vendors are selected. And so once you've selected your vendors and you've whatever contract you're working with this person, they'll look at all of your contracts and like confirm the logistics and like make sure that you're not missing anything and make sure that the vendors are like working in their scope of the contract. They can propose a timeline and then they help ensuring payments and guest count are submitted. They do the final walkthrough and then manage the rehearsal. So still taking a lot of kind of the logistics off of your plate.
So these are like the month of coordinators, day of coordinators.
Okay, but I had a 3-month, and she was supposed to be technically a planner.
Well, my planner, she does, it was like
But mine didn't do any of that. Mine didn't even do the coordinator's job. So.
But like, I know that my planner offered, like, depending on what like package or whatever you got. So I did the full service, but she does offer, I want to say month of. I don't know if she does day of, but I know she does month of. Or she did at the time.
No, I think was month of and day
a 3 month. Yeah, there's like some, it's just based on how much you needed
like
her.
Packages.
Yes.
Yeah. Different packages. So that's the wedding coordinator. It's going to be a shorter time frame, but they're still going to help you with a lot of those logistics. And then the wedding planner, that's like your team captain. They're like the big picture, and they are going to fully take the guesswork out of the process. And so a lot of times if you decide that, you know, you're going to have a like full-time wedding planner, you're often picking them early on because they're going to help you setting the budget. They're going to help you negotiating your vendors of like figuring out how to maximize the budget. They're going to schedule and attend all of your vendor meetings with you, source the details, be there. And then, so all of the leading up details of understanding the couple, understanding their vision, preferences, style, personalities, all those pieces. And then obviously the same as like what the wedding coordinator does of the logistical pieces of wedding management, timeline, arrival, departure, really making sure, you know, coordinating hotels, transportations, and then keeps everybody on the same page and problem solves.
So realistically, the wedding planner can do everything if you want them to, almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys both had really good wedding planners.
Yeah, I loved mine. She did everything.
Yeah. And I think that's again where first and foremost, I mean, you have to decide like what you need.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you have to figure out how to maximize that person. And I think that's one of the things that even in talking to some of our brides, it's like they maybe have hired a wedding coordinator or whatnot, and they still aren't sure, okay, what is included? What is in my contract? Like, how do I
look
ask
at my
them?
contract until literally before the podcast today.
Yeah.
And I have complained about my planner this whole time, basically. And she didn't do basically anything in her contract, but we paid her.
Yeah.
But like also like you probably didn't, if you didn't read it before, you like weren't even thinking to like ask her to follow up.
Being like, hey, I'm not going to, she did not come to the rehearsal. She was not at the rehearsal dinner. She did not come to the ceremony. She didn't show up to the venue until noon. And like all the stuff in her contract is like, she will run the rehearsal.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just told me you weren't coming. So I was just like, oh. And then like I met with her Thursday before. I explained to her all the stuff where I wanted it. She had her other girl like put it all out wrong. And I was like, literally after my wedding, like fixing it. She wasn't around for pictures. I don't know. Like I kept asking her questions. She was nowhere. And she was whatever.
Yeah.
But like she like made it hard for me to even like, no. She kept being like, do you have any questions? I'd be like, do you?
Like, are
you taking all of this in?
Yeah.
Like I mean, you guys interacted with her. We'll get into it more later, but it was a nightmare.
Well, and I think that's the thing too is like,
but we just picked her off a random list.
Doesn't the club work with her?
The club said they work with her and that they liked her. And so literally we were just like, okay, you're hired.
Because you trusted that.
Yeah. The recommendation. Well, and I think too, and that's like what we've heard from some of our followers is like when you hire somebody, it's like, oh, what questions do you have? It's like,
what questions am I supposed to have?
Yeah. As a bride, like you really don't know.
I Googled.
Yeah.
Right. But no, I'm saying it's
Or
like
follow us.
when you have like a new job or
Yeah.
something and you don't know what
I know.
questions that you don't know what you don't know to
Exactly.
ask that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like my planner will be like, do you want a garter toss? I'm like, no, that's like,
did I say I
that is
wanted a
not
garter?
That's
Yeah.
not the question I need.
No, that's not what we're talking
That's not
about
a
here.
prompt.
Yeah. Well, and that's again where like today we're really going to talk about kind of the relationship building of whoever you do decide to plan and whatever level of support, because that kind of goes back into of like understanding the couple, understanding their preferences, like, and, you know, being able to discern of like, okay, what are the things that maybe would be important or relevant based on what the planner knows about you.
Right.
So regardless of what level you choose, you definitely want to pick somebody who's knowledgeable, experienced, and really gets what you and your fiance want. And that's just so crucial.
And almost like I would say send them a quiz.
Maybe we'll draft a,
I don't know. You need
what's
to
it called?
like send them a test to see how they communicate, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is a big key. If you can't like communicate with them, or if they're not like taking in what you say, because I had a bunch of meetings with my planner and I'm not afraid to say whatever I'm thinking or what I want.
Yeah.
And I feel like she like, it was just over her head or something.
Even in my contract with my planner, she had a whole like section about communication.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not mine.
So how did you each decide which level of support you were going to go with?
So I thought I wanted a lower level, like not quite a full service, but like right under it, because I had already booked some things.
Yeah.
And honestly, like when I booked my venue, the venue coordinator was like, you don't need a planner. Like I'll handle
it.
everything.
Yeah.
And like not having a wedding before, not having a sister who got married or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know. I was like, okay, sounds good.
You're like, cool.
Well, then I easily got overwhelmed like real quick.
Right.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, let's look at planners. Like,
Yeah.
you know, let's do that. And then once I like interviewed, or whatever you want to say about Ashley, like talked to her, she was like, I feel like you would do best with the full service. Like
Yeah.
if you don't want to, no worries. But like based on what you're asking me, I think this is what would be best. And thank Jesus I went with that.
Yeah.
I know.
Because-
She's like renowned in that area.
Like
too,
she's
as,
so
like, a
good and her
planner.
team was so good. Like they took
Yeah.
care of everything. So that was how I decided. I kind of went based on like, she's like, because she sent me a list of the things
But
she
it's
could
like
do.
you need that direction. Like
Yes.
my planner
Yeah.
could have never said that to me. And my venue coordinator, I feel like, was kind of the same. And like a lot of it is through
I've
the club.
heard that venue coordinators can be like
And
that.
my venue
Yeah.
coordinator
Yeah.
also does throw all the like the
Yeah.
4th of July parties at the club.
Yeah.
So she's used to coordinating a lot of parties
Yes.
in that space. But like she was like, I mean, you know, you might want to whatever. But she was like, we love her. We work with her for a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
And I like didn't even blink. We like had a meeting with her and it was kind of like fine. But it was
Yeah.
she kept everything surface level. Like she's like, hi, like how are
see
you?
that. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like not like, okay, like let me get to know you. Like what are your goals? Like she didn't, I think, get to know Matthew and I. Like we had a Zoom meeting with my entire family multiple times.
Oh, wow.
And like
Dang.
both my parents were there and Matthew was there. Still, like I feel like I don't know.
Yeah.
She was like, do you need any calligraphy added on?
Like, it sounds like she just asked like random
I'm like,
questions.
what? No. No, thank
Like,
you.
no
Can
cohesiveness.
Can you just get what I'm telling you now?
Yeah. Yeah. I know
How did you pick yours?
Yeah, Caitlin had a really good planner too.
my mom kind of, I mean, I think to your point, I didn't really know that there were different levels
yeah, no clue.
of planning support when we were like, oh, you know, we want to have somebody to help. My mom's background is in event planning and like she was capable for it. But I think when it kind of goes back to like the problem solving
Or
and like
the wedding being the wedding and a happier
Yeah.
thing. I
Yeah.
think if I would have had a full service wedding planner, like might not have been as stressful. But I also like want things done such a certain way and I'm so particular. So I was worried about someone kind of like coming in and taking over. And so I think that scared me into doing the wedding planner I did.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Go.
Yeah. So my mom, like, we knew that she was like very much like she wanted to have a planner well before Kyle was even in the picture. And so
when Kyle was just a twinkle in Caitlin's eye.
Yeah. And then that was one of the things that she actually did before I was engaged was start like looking at wedding planners.
They were dating at this point though.
Yeah. I mean,
it wasn't like,
it was literally like,
it was 5 years ago.
It was like 2 months before it was like a month before he proposed.
Okay.
Was when she started looking at, and then that's a whole nother thing. I got so much anxiety because then the planners would be like, oh, those dates aren't available. And I was like, Mom, you've got to stop telling me this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I don't have a ring. My mom was like, get a ring on your finger. Really? Let's concentrate on that.
Yeah. And so really from there, it was also just like understanding. I didn't know. It wasn't like, oh, I was set on, I want this certain level or time amount of support. But it really was just kind of having meetings with them and starting to figure out what they offer. And then it being like, okay, like, you know, here's what's available and here's what's included in that.
I think your mom being an event planner also like really helps and goes into it. But like, that's the other thing is like my mom and I throw parties all the time, not necessarily at like Janine threw a lot of corporate parties. So like, not necessarily at that scale, but like we like love to host. So we're like, you know, we can do this. And it was just like, it's a lot.
It's a lot of logistics. And it's a lot of things personally I would never think about.
Yeah. Right. And it's good to have somebody who's not in it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like I've had a lot of people.
I don't want to keep bragging on my planner, but if I would have loved to have a full service planner, but not her. I'm not going to say her name. Like love it, whatever. This is all alleged.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to like warn people. I had a terrible experience. Yeah. I feel like you don't hear that a lot.
I actually do follow this one. When I was engaged, I followed this one girl on TikTok and she had lots of like great advice and stuff, but she actually hated her wedding day and she had a full service planner that she hated. So I hear it some, but you really don't hear it a lot.
That was mine. And I didn't see my wedding planner basically my whole wedding day. And I really didn't want to because I hated her at that point. But also I'm like, you were missing for most of the day.
Yeah.
Like, what am I paying you for?
Yeah.
Who knows?
No, we don't.
No.
Yeah.
But like getting back to what you were saying, like with your mom, like you could maybe like, she could definitely plan it, but like, being out of it, you want to enjoy the day.
Yeah.
Like you don't want your mom to have to be the one running around or like an aunt or like someone running around.
Matthew and my mom and I glow sticks for the dance party and the planner was hiding in the closet and I ran in to get some. And she was like, what do you need? I was like, glow sticks. Like no one has like, there's 100 glow sticks still back here. Why can't you pass them out? Why are you standing back here in a closet?
Vaping.
And I'm just kidding. And I'm in a wedding dress
in the closet.
Like give me a break. And then I was getting some and she didn't follow me out or like bring any more to help. She was just like, I don't know. Things were
not working.
No.
So you went through the club and that's how you found yours. Marshall, how did you start to research and find?
So I kind of like how I looked for the photographer. It was very similar. I was on Instagram and I was at like on the profile of the venue and I looked at all their tagged pictures and the pictures, like I went through and like looked at who was the planner for the ones I liked essentially.
Right.
And so it was narrowed down to 2.
Yeah.
Ash Events, who I actually went with, and then Willow Events and Design. They're florist. They used to be florist and full what's it called? Planners, like full they do like the wedding planner aspect. Well, I reached out to them because I loved their floral arrangements. And I was like, well, if I could get them to do my florals and have them be the planner, like,
that's
and
easy. One vendor.
Yeah, exactly.
Or one vendor.
So I reached out to them and they actually they no longer do wedding planning. They just, because their florist part just like exploded.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, and they like, well, if you're looking for someone in the area, like look at Ashley with Ash Events. And I was already looking at her. So that's how I ended up reaching out to her.
Yeah.
And my aunt lives in the area and plans a bunch of fundraising events and like literally raved about Ash Events before.
Yeah. I talked to your aunt about it and she was like, they're so great. I was like, I know. Like literally I can't stop talking. Like years later.
No, it was so nice. Like I feel like everything, like I didn't feel like I had no idea what was going on at any point during your wedding.
Yeah.
It was like very clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is so important.
Same with you, Caitlin, until you locked me in a bathroom for 30 minutes. You think I'm kidding?
No.
That was best for everyone, probably.
Chelsea's like,
Well,
when Caitlin asked me to be her bridesmaid, I didn't know I'd be locked in a bathroom with all you guys.
It was bonding.
Surprise.
Chelsea's silly.
It was team building.
We love Caitlin.
Yeah, my mom had researched and asked for referrals. And then I went in some weddings, just like local Charlotte weddings that I had like seen promoted on different venues and whatnot. I went in and, had looked at some of those and had like reached out to them as well. And so I think I met with like 4 or 5.
Yeah, you did do a lot of planner meetings.
Yeah. Which I think was really helpful.
And there's probably more in the Charlotte area too. Like I feel like there weren't a ton. There's like 2, I think, in Polly's, and the rest were like Myrtle or Charleston, which I mean, I would have reached out.
Yeah, like Asheville. A lot of
Yeah.
them were in Greenville and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so I think that's another thing, again, depending on like the level of support, like you're going to be spending time with them. And so you want to like them. You want to kind of ensure that you do have some shared values and just things, whatever is important to you.
Right. My mom, like the last times we were getting on the phone with her, my mom would mute it, go, I just can't, her voice.
Yeah.
Like that was the level we were so fed up.
Yeah. It's like, it makes it not
makes
fun.
it terrible. Like I was like dreading seeing her. Like
And talking to her and listening to her.
Like I was dreading it. So really like do what Caitlin and Marshall did.
It's like you do spend a lot of time with them and they are having
It's the
say
biggest
over
day of your
day.
life.
Yeah. Like they're going to impact your day, whether you think so or not.
Right.
Marshall, so you just had a call with Ash Events and that was like how you kind of got to know her. Once you decided, what was like?
I talked to her over email.
Okay.
Actually, the first part of it. And then when I didn't talk to her on the phone or anything before I decided to go with her, but I talked to her, like I said, I think I talked to her over text and email. And she just was so knowledgeable. Like everything she sent me was exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Like, and by reading through what she offered, I like was able, because I already had some questions. And like, honestly, the venue coordinator, like, even though she was like, oh, you don't need a planner.
Yeah.
But when I would come to her about stuff, she'd be like, oh.
She's like, I'll email you back about that. And then it's like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And I was like, and then I started doing my own research, which I probably should have done before.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, a venue coordinator is not going to be your wedding planner.
Right. Well, that's the other thing is like the venue coordinators have a day-to-day job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like they have other things. Like they're in charge of the venue.
Other events.
Yeah. Like, and there's lots of events at where I got married. So, and then I chose the package that she suggested.
Yeah.
Ashley. And then from there, we started doing like the Zoom calls, the phone calls, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and she also like texts me at any time.
At any time.
Which was nice because
not my planner who would text me. And then I would text back and ask her a question. And she'd be like, I'm sorry, text isn't an efficient form of communication. Please email it to me. And I was like, okay, but when you text me back and say you've got it, am I supposed to email you again?
That is confusing.
Yeah.
It is.
And then I asked her that and she literally didn't answer. Like she was a master at not answering a question that you asked her. It was her superpower.
It was her superpower. So that's what not to get.
That's stressful.
What did like Marshall?
Don't be so nice when you're interviewing them. I was just like, okay.
Because you don't know what to,
Like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think, and that's one of the things that I knew going into it of like communication is very important to me. And
agreed.
I needed somebody that was going to be like number one for them. Like I am more like, especially for stuff like this, I was like, I do want it in an email. It's easier for me to stay organized. It's easier for me to time block and work on stuff. And knowing like,
okay, my planner and I texted 10 times, though. We did not text that. We mostly emailed. And then she had the audacity to say that to me. I was like, can we not text?
No, I mean, and my planner and I, we did text, but like, I just knew when I was interviewing people, that was one of the big things that I was like, okay, I know that I'm a little much about like wanting clarity, like wanting, okay, you're going to get me this. Okay, when though? Like, I don't walk away from many conversations with a lot of ambiguity.
Right.
And I needed somebody who was not going to be like,
that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you. Like
that was how I had to walk away from every conversation.
Yeah. Like if you say you're going to do something. Like I treated it like work almost.
Yeah.
I would be
Because
like,
you're
hey,
paying them.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes. And I was like, if I was in your job, if I did this at my job, I would be fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you the owner and operator of this business? Like, what?
Yeah.
And then she was like, but no, not good communication. But Caitlin, you had a portal, which I thought was like the coolest
I did too,
thing.
yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
both did.
Yeah. That
Like
was
software to like keep track of stuff.
Yeah.
Not me. We had a Google Doc. And she would be like, can you update it? I'm like,
Yeah.
can you? What else are you doing?
that was one of the things. There were a few planners that we met, and the final 2 that I narrowed it down to both had portals. And that was also important to me because like,
A
again,
place for everything to live.
I can be a little chaotic. I know, like it was
like
just
to be
one
able to go
spot.
to one place and check.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of the week, you're like, did I forget something?
Yep.
I have this one spot to go to. You're not like me, Nicole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
You're not
but
like searching
scattered
your emails.
of like, was it an email? Was it a
Right.
Google Doc? And that's where like in our portal, Marshall, I don't know how yours was, but it was like we could add people into it. So my mom had access, Kyle had access, my mother-in-law had access, my father wanted access. He never used it. And then I could assign a
was
task.
paying for it.
Yeah, I know. He was like, I just want to check it out. Yeah, I don't even think he
what it
ever
looks
like
like.
logged
Yeah.
in. But it was like, it was a place, and it was like where we did all of the design planning,
Yeah.
everything. What was yours like?
It was like that too. It was shared with me. It could have been shared with anyone, but no one else cared. So it was just me and their team also.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, I don't know how like your first, I feel like it was almost like I got assignments from her, which
Yep.
was great. It was
Yeah.
like to do until like from this time until our next meeting.
Yep.
These are your things to do.
I wish I got something like that.
Yeah, and it was great. And I do remember the first thing after like I booked her and paid the deposit and everything, she sent me like a questionnaire, and it was all about like relationships. Like my relationships with my family.
Cool.
Like, is there any
Dynamics that she needed to
that
be
I'll
aware of.
Yeah, and I
Not me. She was like, do you have any food allergies?
so like really dove deep into it. And
Yeah.
then there was a lot of questionnaire type things I did fill out at the beginning. And then there was like the creative part of it too.
Yeah.
Like, and it was all in the portal, all on the drive. And I would go back and like, sometimes I'd be like, okay, I actually decided I want to change this. And she's like, and I could see where she edited, the timestamp,
Yep.
same for me. So that was really helpful because I'm not super organized.
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to find someone who's organized
Right.
essentially.
Yes.
So that was really important for me.
Yeah.
Mine like sent me a Google Doc of my schedule. That was about it.
Yeah.
And then she would like be like, okay, all you need is like to pick your songs for the band and like text them to me. And I was
Thought
like,
you couldn't use text.
I know.
Yeah,
that was
like-
literally like the only like task she ever gave me was figure out the songs for the band that I had to actually end up emailing them with the band multiple times, just me and the band to figure that out anyway. So I'm like, why was that a task from you instead of like literally anything else? I also feel like both of y'all were like so close with your planners. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mine just did not try and get to know us at all. Maybe it was overwhelming that like sometimes there were 4 of us on a call, but like I had
don't
some
think it would
one-on-one
be,
calls
yeah.
with her too. And it was still like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in that business, you can't be overwhelmed
people
by
person.
people being on call.
Yeah. My mom and I did a lot of the calls kind of together.
Right.
The initial, like before we hired anybody. And then I asked Kyle, I was like, how like involved do you want to be in like the final selection of this?
Right.
And he was like, I trust you. Like, and honestly, I mean, the reason that I ended up picking, it was down to 2. One was not one that my mom had recommended, but I knew she's done like a lot of very nice weddings in Charlotte. And the other was one,
Right.
Amy, love you, who, and like, it was, my mom didn't know the other one. I was like, I want to go with the one that my mom like
Yeah.
feels a connection with because she's going to be working with her a lot
Right.
too. And so when I told Kyle kind of like the rationale, he was like, yeah, let's definitely like, I think that's the right move.
and now your mom is like best friends with her.
Yeah. And they're so similar. It's funny. But then, right, like once we hired her and started
Right.
working together, Kyle and I had a lot of the meetings together. And so we would do in-person meetings with Amy for depending on what we were working on. And then some of them, they were just over Zoom.
Yeah. We had a lot over Zoom. Gil didn't, I don't even think I told Gil I was getting a planner. to be completely honest.
We only had it over Zoom, and every vendor meeting we had, she said she couldn't make it.
Oh, see, I
came
actually
to ask
didn't
for like a
go.
few times, and she would be like, "Oh, I can't make it that day," and she never came to a single vendor thing.
So Ashley did have some that it was like required that she was at. She actually went to all of them because I didn't go to some of, because it was in Polly's. It was 3.5, 4 hours
so
away.
nice.
So yeah, so she went to those. My mom, the ones that we did go, so we made a lot of trips to Polly's that year, which was fun. But my mom would go with me. Gil went to the tasting, but Ashley wasn't there because I hadn't hired her yet.
Marshall fought Gil coming.
Yeah, I was like, this is a girl's trip.
Yeah, you're like, whoa.
Whoa, sir. But he
Gil was like, the only thing I care about is the food.
Yeah.
Marshall was like, I don't know.
I was like, well, we'll see.
Let me see if we can add you on. It might be a
I think
fee.
Marshall was literally like, I don't know, you can only have 2 people and my mom has to come. You're like,
Yeah.
I'll see.
Yeah. Or I was like, we could, yeah.
Marshall with the quick comeback.
Oh my God. Well, sometimes they do limit it.
They do. They limited hours. I actually don't know the exact number, but
It was less than what Marshall brought.
yeah.
I mean, more than
But
God.
yeah, so Ashley didn't come to that because I hadn't booked her yet. And at the venue, they only do tastings during like January through
Oh, wow.
February, I think. Because
Yeah.
it's their
Kind of
slow months.
hard, though.
Yeah. So they only, I don't know if that's what they told me. So I think the other time they might have done it was like after my wedding.
Sure.
So
And
that
would not have worked.
Exactly. So Gil did come to that one and the food was delicious. Like it was so good. But the only mom came with me to the ones that were in person. So I think it was like the florist one, maybe. The rentals was a big one because that's like the one that mom was like, we need that. I was like, we don't need all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, ma'am, you're jacking up the bill.
Yeah.
You're paying for it. So if you want to, but Gil wasn't involved. That's all to say. Gil wasn't really involved.
So Gil was not involved. Long story short.
Long story short, Gil ate the food. And that was
Do you feel like she got a feel for you and Gil from the questionnaires?
Yeah, for sure. And
I
honestly,
really liked her confidence. Like, I feel like she came into the bridesmaid suite and was like, so, like, hey, girls, like, wasn't mean or like stern, but she was like, this is what you need to do. This is your schedule. Make this the best day for Marshall. And she was just like,
that was actually Chelsea. So
they were just like great. At
Right.
just,
Somebody
like,
on our team.
coming and like being very confident and like telling it to you in an upbeat way.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like just great how they communicated with us from a bridesmaid's aspect.
Yeah, like they weren't. I mean, I've definitely been in weddings before where the planners almost seem a bit rude.
Yeah.
You know, like they're so stern and they kind of talk to you like your children.
Right.
And I do get it. It's probably like herding cats. Like I totally understand. But yeah, like I really liked their level of professionalism, but they still were kind of just like, hey girl, like it wasn't like stiff
wasn't
and like
stuffy.
formal.
I agree.
And everything
it
like
made you
that.
Be like, okay, I'll listen to what you have to say. Not like, all right,
Not like, can you
screw
leave?
I'm gonna sneak some drinks in the bathroom.
Exactly.
Yeah. So once you hired them, that was like just kicking off the relationship building and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just being able to think through, which is really hard because you go into this and you don't know what questions to ask. But I think, it's just being able to be mindful of like, okay, how clear am I on the vision? How, much support, how much time do you have to be able to plan a wedding? There's some people that are just so busy that like they don't have the capacity to
My
come
good friend's
through.
engaged. She's like, I have a full-time planner. I'm like, how's wedding planning? She's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But that's like the girl she is. She's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's
me.
you wanted to be
Other side.
very involved.
Right.
And so there are different levels of support based on like your personality and also like what you want through the planning process.
And we hired my planner, I think, like the day we met with like a venue.
Yeah. So
Like, we just,
she was there.
Hired her.
Yeah.
And we were like allowed to communicate with her, even though we only had 3 months. We were supposed to like communicate with her the whole time, having like an open line of communication.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think really like it's important to match your personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a really Southern wedding. My mom had a receiving line and stuff like that at the front. And there were all these things and customs that Nicole wasn't used to. And so that I feel like played a part and like her not understanding us.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a big thing when you're looking for someone is like look for someone who like has the same vibe.
Yeah. And we'll understand the vision you have for your wedding and be like you were saying that like Ashley and her team were really confident about it.
Yeah.
Like at one point when we were picking out linens, she was like, I've picked out these 4. I want to do them on these tables. Do you like these? If not, I'll change them, whatever. I was like, oh, those look amazing. I would never even think that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you. You clearly get what
You
like I'm
understood.
trying to do
Yes.
here. Yeah.
You looked at my Pinterest board once.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Mine didn't.
So we've already started to kind of go down this rabbit hole, but what tips would you have for somebody who is twofold? One, just starting to kind of consider what level of support they may need.
And I know this can be budget.
Yeah.
Not everyone can afford a full-time planner. It is a
full
luxury.
service.
Yeah.
It is.
I think the rule of thumb is it's 10% of your budget.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I mean, like that's like, it's a big amount, but then like also
But then
just
there's
see what they
different
have
levels.
to,
There's
see what they have
packages.
to offer.
Right.
Yes.
'Cause
That's full service from day one.
Right.
But I think do your research no matter what. Like Marshall was saying she didn't think she wanted someone, but she like when she spoke to people who knew like Ashley, who knew what she was like talking about, Marshall was like, I do need a full service planner.
Yeah. And like, I will say if your venue coordinator says you don't need a planner, maybe still look into planners because
Maybe DM the last person that got married there.
Well, I think too, one of the things with venues, and this just popped into my head, is some venues and vendors
are requiring planners.
you to have some level of a
planner.
coordinator.
Yeah, it's like logistics for day up.
Yes. And so I do
my
think this is
venue
becoming
did require a day of person.
Yeah, I
a
think
lot of
it's-
vendors and like bands, like I've heard they will not, and photographers will not book. Certain ones will not book a wedding if you don't have a level of a coordinator or planner.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I know. I think that's kind of a newer thing.
it's new.
Yeah, but
I've
I've
loved all
seen
my
it.
vendors except for one. I feel like I've had a bad day too. It's Monday, you guys. I didn't mean to be so intense.
It's good though that like we're not all like hunky dory, like frolicking in a field of daisies, having great.
Well, yeah,
it's
didn't
real.
have a full
Yeah,
service one either. Like you guys had, a different.
And even like other brides, and we're doing a part 2 of this as well. And so of how to actually maximize your planner once you do select the level. Because I know one of the brides that I was talking to, her coordinator gave her like a Google Doc and she didn't even realize that there were all these tabs. And she was like, oh my God, this would have saved me so much time. And she didn't know.
Right.
And so there's just so much. And her venue required her to hire this person. So she had no idea how to maximize this.
right.
And so I would say the tips is definitely like follow up next week for how to maximize it. But in terms of like selecting your level of support and interviewing is like, we kind of touched on this, is pick somebody whose strengths are in the opposite of your weaknesses. And Marshall, you and I both said this of like, we needed somebody who was organized.
Yes.
And like, that was super important of like keeping it on track, keeping everybody up to speed. And then as we kind of talked about, and this was exactly how you found yours, is you can ask your venue for recommendations on planners they've enjoyed working with, and then check their social media, just like you did, of like planners that are tagged in their content.
And you can check the knot. A lot of vendors, you have to pay to be on there. But my
The
planner
knots.
had all 5 stars on the knot. I literally rolled through them cackling.
Did you like review her?
No, I have not. I don't care to ruin her life. I just care to trash her on spot.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is like vet your pros. This is not a regulated industry. This is not like hiring a
Not
banker.
at all.
Like
And
this
a lot
is-
of them, this is their side hustle.
Yeah, there's not a
There's no one to report them
certification.
to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially you're usually working with the owner.
Yes.
There's
So
no
it's not like-
licenses to become a planner. It's just so there are some associations that you can check out to see if they're members of, like we said, the knot. That is something that you do have to be, you have to pay a small kind of fee.
Right.
And it's like a place for reputable vendors,
Yeah.
not just someone who decided to become a wedding planner yesterday.
Exactly. So any closing tips or thoughts?
Just make sure your
Before we go to our
planner,
game.
like gets your personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you
And your
aren't feeling it
vibes.
from the first moment, don't second guess yourself.
Yeah.
There's tons of planners out there. Like,
There really
You
are a
know,
lot out there.
just it's okay if you don't vibe with the first person you reach out to.
Agreed. And I don't think I really vibe with her, but like we just had a video chat and she was like polite and we were like, okay,
Sure.
whatever.
And
But
like it was recommended to you.
It was just like not another thought, but I think it really needs to be a way more thought out process than my mom and I put into it. And so I like cheers to you guys for
lessons
actually doing
learned.
the work.
Also, I have heard of people firing their planners.
I wanted to.
I have heard of that
you know,
too.
it's
You
probably
guys-
not
I've
ideal.
Never heard of that, but
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well,
energy.
look,
honestly-
look in your contract, read the contracts, and see what's.
I know.
Yeah.
My planner sent my dad what her suggested tip was. My dad was like, LOL. You're the owner operator of a business and you're sending me your suggested tip?
Yikes.
That is bold.
But hey,
Especially
that
with-
is something that planners and coordinators
No, but
will do is
they
send the
can-
suggested
They will
tip
for
guide
the
for all
vendors.
of your vendors.
Vendors.
No,
but
no,
I
I know.
think it's
I'm just-
inappropriate for you to send it for yourself. That's
Yeah.
like me at Mimi's Gifting Studio being like, and I want a 20% tip.
You better do it.
Yeah, like
And it's going only to me.
It's going only to me.
What?
Yeah.
Well, especially after the level of service she provided you.
Also, especially after she didn't see me the whole day.
Yeah.
What?
And she was hiding in a closet.
What?
Yeah.
A tip for what? For hiding?
Oh my.
For staying out of my face?
Yeah.
Well, that
Yeah.
actually might deserve something.
We got our bottle of wine.
We're going to wrap up with a little round of true or false. I keep wanting to say truth or dare, but it's not
Ooh,
that
I love
creative.
that too.
I don't know if we
Dare.
could do
I
dares on a
dare you to
podcast.
fire your planner.
No, we're just going to go true or false. So, number one, planning a wedding can take over 500 hours.
True.
Yeah. A Minted survey in 2022 said it takes 528 hours.
Man, that's low, I feel like.
I know.
Because there's 40 hours in a work week. And
Yeah.
think about the whole year.
Yeah, and think about how many people actually plan their weddings and don't work their jobs when they're supposed to, I feel like.
You guys, having a job and planning a wedding, even
It's not for the week.
No.
Not for the
Or
week.
coming home. I really need to get caught up on my thank you notes. Like, coming home.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, I have a job. I have all these responsibilities I've neglected. And now I've got to write all you people thank you.
I
Yeah.
have an animal. I have a husband now. Like,
I know
Jesus.
every day I'm like, you don't understand, Matthew. I have to walk the dog during work. He's
Oh my
like, you
gosh.
wanted the dog.
Yeah. He's like, what's going on? Okay. True or false? Because I hired a wedding planner, I'm going to get all of the deals.
False.
There are some deals through wedding planners.
No, I feel like they get kickbacks. And if they like you, you might get a deal. But she gets kickbacks on setting up all the stuff. Like mine, we didn't need to have a stage.
Yeah.
And then she went to a stage company, reached out and made us get a $3,000 stage that was not necessary. And basically she gets like a kickback from the stage company. And she was just like, you guys need to have a stage. What? You didn't know? So we like panicked, paid the stage thing.
Yeah.
Then we reached out to the venue coordinator. She's like, you don't need a stage.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are some,
like,
like
so
through
exciting.
Ashley, I was able to get 10% off certain things.
So it's false because you should not hire a wedding planner thinking you are
Yeah.
going to get discounted pricing.
That is
So
true.
you have to pay the wedding planner still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they can often get discount codes because of their relationships
Right.
and because of their experience level. However, if you hire somebody for that detail alone, like you're going to be disappointed.
You're going to be disappointed. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that also goes back to like the level of like having a full-time planner. They're going to help you with the contract negotiation because they're coming alongside you from day one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Last, true or false? Wedding planners and coordinators are expensive and only work with couples who have large wedding budgets.
False.
Yeah. I mean, it's false because there's so many different levels.
Yeah. False. Coordinators and planners are often, they have various packages, as we've already said, and services to recommend to couples based on their needs.
Yeah.
So it definitely is, if you are considering it, just do your research, reach out.
And most of them ask you what your budget is anyway. So
Also, I feel like it really depends on your venue and how much support they provide.
Yeah.
And things like that. Like, I know we're saying like even when the venue says not to, but like if they provide no support or if like you're getting married in like a field, like hire
or like if you're like
babe.
doing, I think if I had done like at my venue, if I had just done like the typical like in the ballroom, like you know, like just a very like typical wedding there, but I was like all over like outside tents, like all this stuff. So you know,
you did the ceremony there. You did the reception,
right? Duh.
Yeah. Well, that also
me warfer.
That is another detail too. Is like if you do it, your ceremony and reception in the same place, like it's a little more logistics and all that fun stuff. So, yeah. Well, you guys passed true or false.
Hopefully, I passed my test tomorrow too.
But yeah. This was a pre-test.
Yes.
Awesome. Well,
cheers.
Until next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.